Well, blessings, everybody, and welcome to Revival or Captivity. This is the second video of lesson one of this particular course. And we're going through a lot of the portions of Second Kings and Second Chronicles. This particular video today reads like a soap opera, okay? It deals with 5 kings, and there's 5 successive kings of Israel that are mentioned right here. Now, remember, all the kings of Israel were evil. That's the easy way to remember it. Here we encounter Zechariah, and he was the son of Jeroboam. He reigned 6 months, and he was murdered. And this was during the time of Uzziah, when Uzziah was in his 38th year. And as we've seen throughout these studies, the kings of the north and the kings of the south, their timings are set against each other all the time, where we can see how things are flowing. Once you understand that, we have a really tight chronology a lot of the times. But what we see here with Zechariah is that God kept his word to Jehu. Remember Jehu, who had been zealous for the Lord and had taken care of Ahab and his family? Zechariah was the fourth of his descendants to be king. God had promised that he would do that, and there's the list of the names of the kings. Then you have the king Shallum. He conspired against and murdered Zechariah, and he reigned for a month. And then Menachem rose up and killed him, and this was in the 39th year of Uzziah. And then Menachem reigned 10 years. He was a very violent man. He was an evil man. It was during this time that Pul, also known as Tiglath-Pileser, the king of Assyria, came against Israel during this reign. And you say, well, why do these people have 2 or 3 or 4 different names? Well, this is rather common, particularly in the Far East. When the king of Assyria came in and conquered Babylon, he took a Babylonian name, and I believe Pul was his Babylonian name. Well, anyway, Menachem came along and bribed him and said, how about if I give you some money that you strengthen me and just leave me alone? And so the king of Assyria said, sure, and he gave him 37 tons of silver. Well, then Pekahiah was the father of Menachem. He reigned 2 years, and this was during Uzziah's 50th year. He was evil, and he was also conspired against and killed. Next king is Pekah, and he was an officer of Pekahiah, and he was one who killed Pekahiah. And like all these kings, he did not turn away from the sins of Jeroboam, the son of Nebat. He did evil, and he reigned 20 years. During this time, Tiglath-Pileser, the king of Assyria, came down, and he took a portion of the people in the northern part of the kingdom here captive. Now, let me say something real quick here about the timing of these reigns. And quite often, you will see co-regencies. And when you look at Bible charts and timelines, and if you're just looking at the word, sometimes you think, well, how can this be with this time and this time? Well, quite often a son would co-reign with the father, and then you'd have this sequencing, this overlapping in time. I put this portion right here out of the little study notes that I have. Now listen to this. The timeline chart in the appendix in our homework shows an overlap of Pekah with Menachem and Pekahiah in order to account for Pekah's 20-year reign. A common view among commentators is that Pekah probably reigned east of the Jordan at the same time that Menachem and Pekahiah were reigning, though his reign over all the northern kingdom would have begun after he killed Pekahiah. Because of this, Pekah's name appears first in the chart that we had in our homework. I found that a little confusing when we first did it. They didn't explain that to the student. You find that out later. And so a lot of times with these co-reigning, you have timelines that overlap. So here's the bottom line. Evil was increasing in the northern kingdom because they were seeking to worship the true God, but they were doing it in their own way. During this time right here, it's a time of murder, a time of corruption. Sounds sort of familiar to me. How about you? Again, I'm Dale from the Precept classes in Cullman, Alabama, and I thank you for being with me. And I'll see you again next time. Goodbye.